Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Is this working okay? Great. So welcome, and today is World Environment Day, in case it's gone unnoticed. And here we are to celebrate nature and to celebrate each other and the work that we've done over the last few years and hopefully the work to come. So while I was preparing this talk, I reflected on back in the end of 2018, when I remember being in a small, stuffy room in the council offices with about 10 of our partners. And we were hurriedly getting together a bid for nature-based solutions. We were creating the skeleton at that point of what was going to become the Green Minds programme. And here we are, 5 years later, celebrating what we've done together. And I'm pleased to say that not only are we here with a huge number more people involved, but also a big, airy room. So haven't we come a long way? And there is a lot to be celebrated, but also a lot more to be done. So I just want, in this first introductory presentation, to really talk a little bit about the context of Green Minds, where it came from, and talk about the model, which is the way of working that we've developed over the last few years through the programme, and which actually will help to frame the structure of the conference over the next 2 days. Thank you. Okay, so why nature-based solutions? I'm probably preaching to the converted here, but that was obviously the key premise for the funding bid that we went for. We know we're in a biodiversity crisis, that nature is in decline. We know that we have a climate crisis. And we believed that actually nature is the opportunity to solve some of these key issues that we have. Not only things like flood management, cooling effect, physical, mental, and spiritual well-being, carbon storage, but also creating a really wonderful, sustainable life for us all. That's what we all aspire to. So we had a really strong vision to look at how we can deliver a nature-based city. And why cities? Well, we know that 68% of the world's population will live in a city by 2050. So they're really critical places. And we had a really big ambition. We wanted to create a city full of green minds. A city where green mindsets ensure that nature is at the heart of our decision-making. A city where people, infrastructure, and wildlife dynamically interact as a single ecosystem, positively supporting the whole system. And I have to say, when we were successful in this bid, 4 million euros we secured to deliver this. And I have to say, that was the biggest bid that we'd actually managed at that point in time. And it really felt like a pivotal moment for us in the Council for Environmental Services, where people looked up and went, oh, hang on a minute, you can get that much money for doing stuff with nature? And I have to say, it really set the ambition for what we've done since and what we now know we can achieve as we collectively come together and collaborate with this really clear vision. And we knew effectively that this was about putting nature at the heart of how we live and how we think, of changing our own individual behaviours and attitudes towards nature, but also, more importantly, looking at our system in which we live, work, play, our institutions, the decisions that they make, the policies that we have, the way that we act as a culture, as a society. So we really had a big aim, and it was about from small scale up to large scale. And I think we had an opportunity, that we had a project that was focused on Plymouth. And a lot of people say Plymouth is small enough to make a difference, but big enough to make an impact. And I certainly think that this bid and this development of this programme wouldn't have happened without all the relationships that we developed over the previous 10 years, working with people like yourselves, but also the way that we could come together and bring people along with us for a future of a city that we really care about. And I think it reflects Plymouth's kind of pioneering and creative spirit. So I'm going to set out a little bit about our model that we've developed over the last few years and how the themes that have emerged from that will come about through speakers and presentations over the next couple of days. So at the heart, as Tom mentioned, at the heart of this program, it's really about urban rewilding people and places. So it's about hearts and it's about place in which we live, placemaking. And then how do we do that? We did that through looking at various themes that have emerged as we've worked. And we wanted to look at it at different scales, so not just about the individual, but look at how do we do this on a neighbourhood scale and how do we do this on a city scale, towards our key aim to create a resilient city, one that's nature connected, one that's inclusive, one that's pioneering and delivers a really high quality of life for everybody. And we did that through action learning. We tried some stuff didn't work, we reflected, we evaluated, we tried some more stuff. So what you're going to hear about over the next couple of days is really about the learning that we've made over the last 4 years. So urban rewilding principles and practice. We worked really hard with Devon Wildlife Trust, looking at what Rewilding Britain were doing and thinking about how do we adapt that for an urban environment? How do we deliver nature recovery in an urban environment? How do we let nature lead? How do we create connected spaces at different scales for nature to recover? And how do we bring communities along with us, supporting co-design and co-stewardship? So we were lucky to have some actual capital funds to be able to deliver stuff on the ground. Tom's already mentioned the introduction of the beaver at Poole Farm. We worked in Keyham alongside communities to develop more wildflower meadows and adapt our grassland management there and across the city to support more biodiversity. And it gives me so much pleasure going along our highways now and seeing the long grass. It's just wonderful. It's a really different feel in the city. We've also managed to designate another area, Billicombe Meadow, if some of you might be aware, as a county wildlife site. And Devon Wildlife Trust have been working with us there to look at seed collection. It's one of the best wildflower meadows we have in the city and beyond. We've worked in Central Park, designing and developing a sustainable urban drainage system. And we've also developed a permaculture project there in a park, which is a kind of designated formal park. So working with our apprentices, we've actually employed new ways of working with nature in a really key city park that most people know about. So that's at the heart of what we've been doing. And how have we been doing that? Through our themes. Well, again, as Tom mentioned, a really critical part is how do we make nature more visible to everybody? You know, we all go about, don't we, our daily lives. Are we really looking up in the sky, up into the tree canopy, or looking down at the plants on the ground, or the bees and the bugs that are around them? Do we actually stop to notice? And so working with creative organisations and students like Arts University Plymouth, working with the Data Place and University of Plymouth to use data and technology to actually gather data, gather information about what's going on in our parks, and making it more visible through having spaces in the park where people can engage through QR codes or screens in the park, so that actually people can find out a little bit more information. Through drawing murals so people stop and notice what's out there. Through working with Real Ideas, where Claire led Illuminate, a big citywide, over 40,000 people attending a citywide festival that actually focused on nature and rewilding as a whole. And we've actually had 3 million unique views through the media features, through the website, and through the social media work that Emmy and the comms team have been doing. So we really are getting the word out about the nature that we have in the city. We've also realised at the beginning how important nature connection was, and not all of us have the opportunity to connect with nature. We know that there's an extreme amount of environmental injustice, even between the east and the west of the city. So actually supporting people to connect with nature was a really key part of changing our attitudes and behaviours towards nature. And as time went on, we started to work with the University of Derby to use their nature connectedness framework as a structure through which to deliver our nature connection activities and also to be able to evaluate the impact. And now we're actually monitoring nature connection across the city through our citywide resident and school surveys. So we're actually able to see how it's changing over time. And we've worked with schools, we've worked with residents, we've worked with adults, we've done green social prescribing, a whole range of people, 46,000 people engaged in activities. And we know that 91% of those participants recognised that being in nature was good for their health and well-being. So starting to change those behaviours and attitudes that we know through research leads to pro-environmental behaviours. We also recognise the value of leadership. And this isn't just about leadership for, those big, important chief execs through the city. This is about how we can all become change agents. So we've done a lot of work supporting volunteering, supporting green skills and training, both with residents, with our land management workforce, so the guys you see out on our parks every day, supporting them to get learning around biodiversity and new nature-based practices. And we also recognise the importance of cross-sector collaboration. This isn't just about, the tree huggers in the room. This is about our engineers. This is about our transport designers. This is about people who work in corporate sector. So we brought together a whole group of people to discuss what it meant to connect with nature and to look at nature-inspired decision-making across a whole range of different sectors. And we built a network, and we supported those people to become change agents, to have the tools to be able to have discussions about nature and in nature within various sectors. And from that, we recognised, in order to create that systemic change, we needed new structures that go beyond the kind of capitalist corporate goals that we have, and moved into community and social enterprise. And so working with Real Ideas, we supported 9 co-stewardship structures across the city, particularly in Devonport and Stonehouse, where we know there's more deprivation and less access to green space. So it was really about trialling new ways to support connection to nature and nature-based solutions through new co-stewardship and co-enterprise models. And finally, again, we knew to create that longer-term systemic change, we need to start embedding the change in cross-sector policy, practice, planning, and finance. And I'm really pleased to say that 2 of our partners have actually now incorporated environmental justice as well as social justice within the core objectives and aims of their organisation's work. And that's filtered through to new roles that focus on nature and neighbourhoods, for example. We've also got the opportunity now through the Environment Act and through local nature recovery strategies to actually design a local nature recovery plan for Plymouth with people. And we've got a session later on today where you can have some input into how we start to design that. And we've also started to look at things like biodiversity net gain that falls out of the Environment Act, and how do we actually access new forms of green finance. There's only so many funding bids you can write. So actually finding new types of investment that are more sustainable to actually support these nature-based solutions long-term is something we've started to develop in Plymouth, so we can actually be ready as we move from green mines into this world of green finance. So that's the model that we've developed with Green Minds. And through the next 2 days, you'll be able to have an opportunity to dive a little bit deeper into those core themes through some of the presentations and the workshops that you were delivering or participating in. And so as I finish Just to let you know, Green Minds isn't quite over yet. We've still got a few months to finalise our projects, to tie up some loose ends. And don't get me wrong, we've already started over the last 6 months working with existing and new partners to gain new forms of funding to actually carry on this work, to actually embed some of the learning in existing projects like National Marine Park. And we're also developing toolkits, which will be case studies, insight papers, so that over the next year we can really transfer some of this knowledge both locally and nationally. So really, I just want to ask of you today and tomorrow, have a wonderful time, enjoy yourselves, stay curious, ask questions, help us reflect on the last few years so that we can design the next few years together, make connections, because it's all about people and wildlife, and help us go forward and really create a city full of green minds. Thank you.